Yo, what up guys, I'm Sammy and welcome back to the Soul Brothers channel, and today I'm going to be doing a versus video between the Jordan 34 and the Jordan 35. They're both super expensive, coming in at 180 bucks. Very premium pricing. If you guys do want to cop, I'll leave a link in the description box. The 34 I don't think is available anymore on Nike, but the 34 low is available, and the 35 is, I believe it's sold out on Nike. The center of gravity colorway did release, but I think it's sold out. But if there is a link, I'll leave a link in the description box. And if you guys saw the performance review for either of these shoes, I really enjoyed playing in both of them. And today we're gonna see which one is better. Alright, so as always, let's start off with the Tracciones. And both of the shoes are using a herringbone traction pattern. The Jordan 35 is a lot closer together, right? Sorry about this, but I did not play with the Jordan 35 on an indoor court, so I don't really know about dust, but I'm just speculating here. I feel like the 35 will pick up a little bit more dust because the grooves are a lot closer together. Obviously, the 34 is more spaced apart, and the rubber also is a little bit harder. So I did play with the 34 on outdoor court as well while I was testing out the Jordan 35, and there is a lot less wear in the Jordan 34 than the 35. Like the 35 is terrible. There's just so much wear. It's literally all worn down in the Jordan 35. The 34 I wouldn't say is the best for durability, but it's definitely better than 35. So there's a traction there. As far as the heel to toe transition goes, you would think that it's pretty much the same, right? But it's actually not. The 35 is actually better in my opinion. So the basic overall shape is the same, right? So here in the heel, you have a nice rounded shape. Here in the forefoot, you have a nice curved shape. So basically from heel to toe, you have a nice rocking motion in both of the shoes. But the 34 is a little bit stiffer, right? So for me to have nice heel to toe transition, you have to have a nice shape right here in the outsole. But also two more things that you need to have, for me personally, I think, is a nice flex here in the forefoot and a little bit of heel compression, right? So if the heel is absolutely stiff, but also you have like a nice curved shape, I mean, it's overall, it's not a huge deal, but if there is heel compression, it just makes the heel feel a lot smoother. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't feel as clunky in the heel. And the Jordan 35 has a softer foam, which compresses a good amount more than the Jordan 34, like this really stiff Phylon. And not only that, if you guys look at the Eclipse plate, the Jordan 34 like comes here into the heel a lot more than here in the Jordan 35. You guys see that? So like you have all of this here in the Jordan 35 to compress versus the 34, which is the foam is a lot stiffer and the Eclipse plate comes more, so it doesn't compress really at all. So it feels a little bit more clunky in the heel, and for some reason the 34 is a good amount stiffer, and I believe that has something to do with this plastic clip here in the forefoot, which of course I feel like is restricting this movement. The 35 doesn't have anything like that, and if you guys can see, I can pretty much look at that. Look at how much more it flexes as compared to the 34. So for me personally, I mean, like heel to toe transition is pretty important to me. You know, I'm sure there's people that don't really care all too much about it. I've seen people playing the Jordan 12, and I absolutely hate playing the Jordan 12 because it feels like a boot. It's super clunky, especially when you're like jogging with like your heel down the court, you know. But anyways, yeah, the 35 is overall a good amount better for heel to toe transition and also for cushion, right? So as far as the cushioning setup goes, it's very similar. So the forefoot zoom unit is literally the exact same in both of the shoes. It's a very large volume zoom unit and it's super bouncy. I love it. It's just like when you're going up for a layup, you know, and you're kind of like jumping off one foot, you get that extra bounce. When you're going out of that triple threat, you get that extra bounce as well. It just feels awesome in the forefoot, right? But there are some subtle differences. So the 35, like I mentioned, has a softer foam and it compresses more, so that feels actually a lot better to me in the Jordan 35. Impact protection also seems better for heel strikes, and you have a larger volume zoom unit here in the heel. So here in the Jordan 34, they're using a hex zoom unit, which is pretty small. And you know, it doesn't really do much, but the 35, because it's so much bigger, you definitely feel like a nice bounce, as well as a subtle compression from the foam in the heel for the 35. And I guess that all ties into heel to toe transition, but you know, it just feels so much smoother and better doing this type of movement when you're going down the court, right? So in my opinion, the 35 has a better cushioning setup. And I feel like most people will agree with me. You know, the 34, it's still super nice, especially with that zoom in the forefoot, but the 35 is definitely an upgrade. All right, moving on to the materials. So this is where it gets a little dicey, right? So for me, I like to have a very thin material. I like to have a very minimal material, right? So obviously the 34 would be better. You know, the 34, the material is so damn thin. It's paper thin, and literally you guys can see my finger through the upper. That's how thin the material is, right? So I guess I like that about the 34 better. The tongue has absolutely no padding in the 34, which I don't really mind all too much. You know, it's not a huge deal, but I would prefer like a little bit of padding at least. If it has as much padding as like the Zoom Freak 1 and the Zoom Freak 2, that's a big plus for me personally. And the 35 has a little bit of padding, which I feel like makes the shoe overall feel a lot cozier and more comfortable. Here in the ankle area, I mean, I would say the padding is around the same, but of course the 35 has crazy Achilles pillows, which feel very, very nice on the Achilles and helps with lockdown. So like I mentioned, the 34, I guess is like overall I would prefer a little bit more, but the 35 isn't bad at all. Like if you feel the material in the 35 in the toe, they're using a Cure material and it's also thin. It's not as thin as the 34, but it's still pretty damn thin. And like this nubuck material doesn't make it feel like super thick or anything. It doesn't feel stiff, it doesn't feel cumbersome. It actually doesn't feel all too different from the 34. So in my opinion, I actually like the 35 better, because the 35, like I said, there's really no problems with it. It's still thin and all that and supportive. The tongue, I feel like it's better. You have Achilles pillows as well. So yeah, I'm gonna have to give the edge to the 35 here. Obviously, if you're a stickler for how thick your materials are, then obviously go with the 34, you know? All right, moving on to the fit. They fit pretty much the exact same. I went true to size and they're very, very snug, especially here in the toe box. Width-wise, I would say it's slightly narrow for both of the shoes. So if you tried the 34 on, then you know what size you are here in the Jordan 35. One thing I will note that I don't like about the 35 is this part here. Like, I hate this part. They made it super pointy and very, very stiff, and it points inwards towards your Achilles, right? So like I mentioned in the review, when I tighten the laces down here like pretty tight, obviously when you tighten down laces, you want to tie it down pretty tight, right? So I tightened it down and I started playing, and even when the shoe was broken and all that, I mean, it does break in a little bit, but still, this part is just super uncomfortable. It digs into my Achilles. So the way I remedied that is by loosening up the laces here on the top two eyelets and just like not tightening it as tight. So that fixed it. And I really didn't have that problem at all. Of course, you would think that that would make the lockdown bad in the heel, but it actually kind of doesn't, because the Achilles pillows are so nice and thick. It just keeps your heel down. So just be careful on that. But like I said, it shouldn't be a huge deal. All right, support and lockdown. Obviously, it's a Jordan shoe, and support and lockdown is never an issue ever in a Jordan shoe, like in his main line. So for lateral containment, I had no issues. The 35, the materials are super supportive. You have the Eclipse plate coming up, and you have the flight wire as well. So lateral containment was good in the 35, and in the 34 as well, you have this plastic clip here in the forefoot, and you have an internal TPU heel counter. So no issues for lateral containment. As far as ankle support, I would say the 35 is a little bit better. You know, it comes up on the ankle a little bit more, and the material is a lot like more stiff and supportive. The 34, look at that, it's just so thin and it's just so easy to move that the ankle support wasn't that good. So the 35, I would say, is better. And of course, lateral stability was good as well. You know, there's really no outrigger, but you have a pretty low wide base, and I really had no issues with like this type of motion. So both of these shoes were good. All right, moving on to the weight. Obviously the 34 is going to be lighter, right? So 12.42 ounces, and then the 35 is like 13 point something, 13.05 ounces. So that's like not even that much, which surprised me, you know. And like I said, the materials look like thicker than it actually is, but when you like put it on foot and when you feel it in hand, it's actually very, very thin. So like on foot and when you're playing in it, they both feel very, very similar. You know, the 34 obviously feels a little bit more minimal. So for weight, obviously I would give the slight edge to the Jordan 34, but it's just like the slightest win, you know what I'm saying? As far as ventilation though, I would say the Jordan 34 wins by a landslide. The ventilation is really, really good. There's a lot of airflow, like you feel all of that. The 35 is actually super hot. There's like no airflow and there's no ventilation holes pretty much throughout this entire shoe. So the 34 is way better for that. As far as the aesthetics go, ooh, I don't know, guys. I love the 34. I love the 35. I'm gonna have to cop out. I'm gonna tie it up. I'm sorry, guys, but I can't choose what I like better. But tell us what you guys think looks better down in the comment section below. And also on Instagram, it seemed like the majority of you guys like the 34 a little bit better. But anyways, wrapping things up. So the 34 was awesome. But the 35, I feel like, is definitely an upgrade, right? The cushioning setup is better. The materials, like I said, even though it's a little bit thicker, it's not even that bad. Support is really good in both of the shoes. I guess ventilation is better than the 34, but ventilation isn't a huge deal. And also that heel to toe transition feels actually a good amount smoother in 35 as opposed to the Jordan 34. So in my opinion, the 35 performs better. And I definitely think the Jordan 35 is an upgraded 34. Like if you want to look at the gist of it, that's basically it. The 35 is an upgraded 34 in my eyes. So yeah, great job to Jordan Brand for designing it. And like I said, if you like the 34, I genuinely think you will like the Jordan 35. Just watch out for this heel part right here. But anyways, that about wraps up this versus video. Again, if you guys want to cop either of these shoes, I'll try to leave a link in the description box. But that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.